crisis, and in accordance with Governor Sununu's Emergency Order Number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 20-04, this board is authorized to meet electronically, and these reasons shall be reflected in the minutes. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, and which was authorized pursuant to the Governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, this is to confirm that we, A, are providing public access to the meeting by telephone. Members of the public wishing to attend this meeting electronically may call the conference call number from home. Follow the instructions listed under, quote, news and announcements on the town's website, www.alton.nh.gov. B, providing additional public access by video or other electronic means. We are utilizing the Zoom platform for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting, and the public has access contemporaneously, listening, and, if necessary, participating in this meeting through the link that is listed under, quote, news and announcements on the town's website, www.alton.nh.gov. C, providing public notice of unnecessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to abutters and the public of how to access the meeting via telephone conference and by using Zoom. D, providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting that a member of the public wishes to speak or be recognized during public input at the public hearing. If you are calling in by conference call, press the, quote, star button, sign, and then, quote, 9 to raise your hand to request to speak to the board. If you are using a laptop computer, use the, quote, raise hand button to request to speak to the board. Several members of the public may be conferenced in, and requests to speak will be handled sequentially one at a time. The Zoom moderator will allow you to speak when the board opens for public input. E, providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with the access. If anybody has a problem accessing the meeting, please call 603-507-1002. I repeat, 603-507-1002. F, adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting via conference call, or there are difficulties with the town's equipment, the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled for Thursday, December 3rd, 2020 at 6 p.m. at the Town Hall. I repeat, Thursday, December 3rd, 2020 at 6 p.m. at the Town Hall. Until further notice, to keep our members and staff safe and to comply with RSA 91A, the COVID-19 state of emergency, and the governor's orders on restrictions at public gatherings, the town of Alton has moved from in-person meetings to remote audio participation meetings until further notice. You may call the planning department at 603-875-2162 between 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. for more information or for a dial-in code meeting ID for each zoning board meeting. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking the roll call attendance, and when each member states their presence, also please state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is also required under the right to know law. You want to start? Oh, no, you don't.
No.
Tim? You have to. Tom. Roll call.
Yes. Aye. Tom Lee.
Tom Lee. Aye. Frank Rich.
Aye, Paul LaRochelle. Present, Paul Manzioni.
Okay. All right.
And present,
Present also is Mike Hepworth, who is an alternate and will be sworn in just a second. Already sworn in, but will be will be working with the board at this particular meeting.
Present, John Dever, code official.
There are no other people present at the meeting other than Josh, our moderator. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
microphone appropriately positioned on this side of the table, because I'm not sure a lot of the talking will occur on this side.
Yeah, one right here.
Another one there? Oh, good. Oh, they're all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm gonna, we did the call to order, we did the introduction of the board members. We're going to appoint an alternate, okay? Can I get an appointment for an alternate?
I would make a motion, Mr. Chair, this is Paul Manzioni, I would make a motion that we appoint Mike Hepworth to serve as a member this evening in place of Tim Morgan, who I understand is coming late, but until he gets here, I think that Mike should serve as a member. I second. Paul LaRochelle.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye. Tom Lee. Welcome aboard.
Aye, Frank Rich.
Aye, Paul LaRochelle. Aye, Paul Manzioni.
Okay, welcome, Mike, okay? And it's unanimous. Okay, statement of the appeal process. The purpose of this hearing is to allow anyone concerned with an appeal to the Zoning Board of Adjustment to present evidence for or against the appeal. This evidence may be in the form of an opinion rather than an established fact. However, it should support the grounds which the board must consider when making a determination. The purpose of the hearing is not to gauge the sentiment of the public or to hear personal reasons why individuals are for or against an appeal, but all facts and opinions based on reasonable assumptions will be considered. In the case of an appeal for a variance, the board must determine facts bearing upon the 5 criteria as set forth in the state statute. For special exception, the board must ascertain whether each of the standards set forth in the zoning ordinance has been or will be met. Okay, can I get an approval of the agenda?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
before we proceed, the first case on the agenda, which is KZ 20-22,
Yes.
is split into two, is now assigned, there is a special exception request and a request for a variance. So, and somehow they got put in together on the same case. So what we have done is we have split those. So Z 2022 is the special exception request, and Z 2024 will be the variance request. And our past history, you know, our past procedures have been to keep these separate should the board choose to grant one and not the other. And it's 22 and 24 because 23 was already taken by the next case.
Okay, so the new applications that I have does not have, as the approval of the agenda does not have case, unless someone else has it on theirs, I do not see case Z20-24.
Correct, that's not there on the agenda.
That's why he's amending it.
Okay, so we're amending,
Didn't change any of the notices of anything, both, you know, variance and special exception were noticed, all of that. It's just that when we looked at it and realized that there'd only been one number assigned to both requests, we assigned a second number to the variance request.
Okay, so we'll be taking up Z 20-22 first.
Correct. Now, and the exhibits are common to both requests.
Okay? And is it the board's pleasure to take up, since we're taking up the variance first,
No, the special exception
I'm
first.
sorry, the special exception first, do they want to take up Z 20-24, the variance right after the special exception? Or do we want to wait? No, okay. So we're going to do Z 20-22, then we're going to do Z 20-24,
Correct.
and then we're going to do Z 20-23.
Correct.
And then we're going to do the extension request, case Z 18-22.
Correct. Yes. So I would make a motion that with those noted changes and with that agenda, we approve the agenda.
So I have a motion.
I second the motion for the new agenda.
By the way, Paul Manzioni making the motion.
Tom Lee seconding.
And Tom Lee is seconding. Okay, is there any discussion? Seeing none? Okay, then I need a vote on it.
Aye, Tom Lee.
I, Frank Rich.
Aye, Paul LaRochelle. Aye, Paul Manzioni.
Aye, Mike Hepworth.
Very good, that's unanimous. So the approval of the agenda is approved. Okay, so we'll begin with the new application, Z-20-22, special exception, Andrew and Michelle Carter, Carter Family Trust, owners and trustee. Do we have the Carters, or are you available?
Yes, I think, can you hear us all right?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Okay. And I had Tom Varney, I think, is as well, listening in.
I'm here if you hear me.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Great.
Hi, Tom. How are you? Okay,
Good.
who will be presenting? Will the Carters be presenting, or will Tom Varney be presenting? Or will both be presenting?
Well, I think we both, if possible, I think we both would be presenting. I'll try and take the lead as best as I can.
That'd be great. So go ahead, Tom.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. So, I think if Tom Varney is going to be a witness or present information for the board, but Mr. Carter is going to be presenting, then for purposes of our first decision, whether to accept the application as complete, I'm just trying to see if there was a letter of agency.
No, there's no need for one because Mr. Carter
Is doing it himself,
Right.
but only because Tom Varney is on it now. So Tom's not going to be presenting, he's just going to be providing information.
Correct.
Mr. Carter will be doing it himself, so therefore the application does not need a letter of agency.
Correct.
And then the only other question I have, and John, you've answered one of them, and that is that all of the exhibits to the application, the plans, photographs, et cetera, a butter list, all that are applicable to both applications for variance and one for special exception. And I assume the narrative is as well.
That is correct.
But I'm not sure that I saw two separate applications, one for special exception and one for variance, and it may just be I see the first one is an application for special exception.
I have,
There's two.
there is two.
Okay, one right after the other.
Yes, and then the variance
Yeah.
follows right behind it.
And then there was a supplement, Paul, also, that I have the special exception, and I also have the variance, okay?
Okay. Yeah, and there were photographs and, plans and so forth, so it looks like a very good, application. And on that basis, I would move that, we accept it as complete, as a deed and narrative list of abutters.
I second. Paul Rochelle.
Okay, so Paul Monzio made the motion, Paul LaRochelle second. Okay, any discussion on accepting both Z20-22, the variance, okay, and then I'm sorry?
Special exception.
22 is the special exception.
Special exception, and Z20-24, the variance as complete. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion,
We are in discussion, Mr. Chair, to address Paul's concern. Yeah, we're going to rule on them separately, consider them separately, but I think since it's one application, I think it would be appropriate if we accept it as complete one time,
Okay.
Is it okay?
applying to both. I think that
We'll do both.
makes sense.
Yeah, that's fine.
okay? Any discussion on that? Hearing none, can I have a vote?
Aye, Tom Lee.
Aye, Frank Rich.
Aye, Paul Rochelle.
Aye, Paul Monzioni.
Okay, so, Mr. and Mrs. Carter, you can proceed.
Okay, I got to admit, I'm somewhat new to this position as sitting on this side of the table, but in short, so we're discussing the special exception right now, I believe, correct?
Yes.
All right. So I had noted the sections of Article 320 that I believe that we were seeking these special exceptions from. Essentially, this is the last camp remaining, seasonal camp remaining within this development of 11 lots. And it is our desire to make it our year-round home. We do currently live in Alton on the other side of town, but we do want to be able to move there. So there's plenty of single-family homes, already year-round dwellings in the area, we are planning on installing a new septic system, a new 2-bedroom septic system, which the lot was grandfathered for. And we've also, gone as far as Tom has prepared and submitted actually already our shoreland application. So I'm not sure what else I can offer you at this point.
So I'm going to put it for the members to ask questions to Mr. Carter or Mr. Varney. Wait a second. Mr. Varney, do you have anything that you would like to add to Mr. Carter's presentation before we
Yeah,
ask questions?
what he's doing is he's tearing down the existing cottage and building a new cottage. So you can see that on the plans there. Changing the driveway a little bit. He's adding stormwater measures to deal with the stormwater runoff. Has a new septic system. And mostly the building conforms within the building setback, but not entirely. So that's why he's asking for a variance. So in terms of the ordinance, he's going down and up. The height will increase. The basement grade will be different because there isn't much of a basement there now, I don't believe. So that's it. You have to look at the plans and then you can see what he's doing.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Mr. Carter, how many bedrooms are in the current structure?
It's a 1-bedroom structure. My The information that I received when we purchased the cottage was that there was a 3-bedroom septic installed, a concrete chambered system. I'm not sure how, why. The records are not terribly clear, which is why we're just simply going to replace it altogether.
So there's, 1 bedroom in the current structure, and then the proposed replacement structure will have how many bedrooms?
2 bedrooms.
So, under section 320J, subsection A, it says we can grant this if replacement complies with the following. In addition to the regular criteria for a special exception, and there's a whole list of those, as we all know. But A says there is no increase in the number of bedrooms.
Correct.
So what I typically do in trying to decide how we should vote, how I should vote on an application for special exception to voluntarily replace a non-conforming structure, is to go through them one by one. So A is there's no increase in the number of bedrooms, and that's why I asked. So currently there's 1, you're proposing 2. So how does that meet the criterion that you don't increase the number of bedrooms? Right.
I can answer. Yeah, I can answer.
Applicant, yeah.
I think the old septic system is approved, state approved, early 1970s. That would have been a 2-bedroom septic design. There's no such thing as a 1-bedroom septic design, and there's really no such thing as a 1-bedroom house. They're all assigned 2 bedrooms as a minimum. So the existing structure would be considered a 2-bedroom as far as the state goes. And I think if we could find the septic design, I think it would state that on the approval.
Well, Tom, when we get to F in section J, it's going to say in-kind replacement shall not permit conversion from seasonal use to year-round use, which is the other thing this application is proposing to do. It says without installation of year-round domestic water supply and installation of a septic system approved by the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. So I understand that the plan is you've got an application in now to the DES, and the plan is that you're going to have a septic system that's going to accommodate the structure that you're proposing. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So regardless, so whether it's a 2, I understand why you're mentioning that the septic's probably a 2-bedroom septic that's currently on file, because that would support your statement that this is a 2-bedroom structure, even though inside it may be laid out with only 1 bedroom. You're saying technically from an engineering point of view, because it's a 2-bedroom septic and because there are no 1-bedroom structures, this is technically a 2-bedroom structure. And therefore you're really not increasing the number of bedrooms.
No, I don't believe you're increasing the number of bedrooms.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying that you're saying you're not increasing the number of bedrooms because I mean, I don't know that there's no such thing as a 1-bedroom structure. I mean, there's got to be 1-bedroom structures. So
It is, but even if it's a 1-bedroom structure, it's
Yeah.
required to have a minimum of a 2-bedroom septic system by the state. They don't approve a 1-bedroom system.
I gotcha. So, but in our zoning ordinance, when we say there is no increase in the number of bedrooms, is that referencing the interior partitions and setup of the interior rooms such that one would define it as a bedroom, whatever those criteria are? It has its own closet, it has whatever the definition of bedroom is. We know the septic is going to accommodate a two-bedroom, so any house that has a septic system is automatically defined as a two-bedroom house, even though inside the building, when you go in the structure, there's only one room that would qualify as a bedroom.
Yes, because it would not be allowed, the septic system is always designed to a minimum of 2 bedrooms.
Right, but I'm just wondering, in our ordinance, for our purposes, are we concerned about, if that were the case, it should say there is no increase in the septic system beyond a 2-bedroom. We're actually saying in A, we're referencing the rooms, not the septic system. And now we're trying to interpret that provision as not applying to any house that has a septic unless they're putting 3 bedrooms in.
That would be what when we did this, I would have anticipated, because we had not come across the minimum is always 2 bedrooms as far as septic design. Come across the house that had a 1-bedroom.
Mr. Carter and Tom, how many rooms are in the cottage?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rooms currently.
6 rooms?
Yes.
Six rooms. So it may have been very possible that one of the additional 5 rooms was used as a bedroom. Yes? No?
Yeah, I mean, that certainly is possible.
Chairman, if I could interject, this is
Yes.
Tom Lee. I think to Paul Monzione's point, this section 320, letter J, subsection A, I think that's something the ZAC committee can take up and clarify going forward. So we're not sitting here trying to figure out an interpretation with that. We can go through the verbiage at the next ZAC committee, which is next week, but certainly can say.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It needs to be cleared up.
It needs to be clarified.
It's clarified exactly to your question.
Yeah.
Whether or not, even if it has a 2-bedroom septic minimum by the state, if it's always been used as a 1-bedroom, how do we change that? How do we change that from in the wording?
Right.
If it's a 2-bedroom septic, can the house be a 2-bedroom house, even if it's not being used now, or is it considered that somebody used one of those existing 6 rooms as a bedroom at one point?
So for the purposes of ZAC, you might consider there is no increase in the number of bedrooms beyond a minimum of 2 bedrooms or something like that in terms of changing that language. But that's not what we're doing tonight. But we are charged with the responsibility of trying to interpret that now to this application. And I think to Frank's question about the number of other rooms in the structure, I mean, seriously, if this were a structure with 1 room and a little kitchenette, we might be looking at, whether that would properly be called a 2-bedroom is increasing the bedrooms or not. But with that number of rooms and a 2-bedroom septic, I think we are not going overboard by finding that 2 bedrooms in the new structure is not increasing the number of bedrooms.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
That's why I asked the question.
Correct.
Yeah,
But I was going
yeah.
to say the same thing. How many rooms are in there?
How many rooms are in there? And I gotta want to believe, even if it was seasonal, I'm willing to bet that 2 rooms were being used as bedrooms.
Right. Right.
Exactly.
And then what about the non-conforming aspect of the new structure? I know it's going to be moved away from boundaries to decrease the encroachment, at least in one of the boundaries that's being increased. There's a concern from department heads from the Conservation Commission that says the proposed structure will be more non-conforming. And I don't know if you guys have seen these.
Yes.
Department head reviews, but the proposed structure will be more non-conforming to Shoreland Act requirements, and we have concerns about runoff from the, what is that? Lot, and from Peggy's Cove Road. So, Mr. Carter or Tom, would you like to address that, whether it's non-conforming, and what's the circumstance with the runoff to address the Conservation Commission's concerns, please?
Yeah, this is Tom. The word non-conforming in shoreline rules applies to a building within 50 feet. So the use of the word non-conforming doesn't apply the way you're thinking about it in terms of zoning or the exact language. I think the statement is that the building is getting bigger, might be what the translation of that word phrase is, but I've done an engineering study, a stormwater management report, because the lot size coverage required that. If you go over 30% lot size coverage, you need to have an engineer calculate the stormwater runoff before development and after development. And I've done that with this, this might be a 50-page report, but it really isn't. But there's a lot of calculations there for the runoff for the land that's uphill, that any land that would drain through this property. I've categorized that and quantified the runoff for a 10-year storm event. And then we instituted a dry well catch basin in the driveway, and then there's 2 drip edges to catch water off the roof. And there's a rain gutter that will connect to that dry well in the driveway. So when I do that, I reduce the runoff by infiltrating it into the ground. So the report shows a big reduction in runoff. So he's building a bigger house, but he has less runoff than he did before. So we're controlling the runoff through the property.
Okay. That's helpful. But Tom, on the non-conforming part of it, the structure is non-conforming because of other boundary setback requirements that are being encroached, right?
Yes.
I'm not going to talk about shoreland setback of 50 feet, 30 feet. So, and it's becoming less non-conforming by being relocated, the new one, right?
Yeah,
That is
this building is like 260 feet from the lake, so that takes us out of that 50-foot conforming and
Right.
non-conforming zone. Now we're in the back end of the shoreline. We're right up against the 250-foot line. And all that matters there is trees and stormwater runoff.
Yeah, but then you've got the town right-of-way setback issue.
Yeah,
Is there a boundary line setback too? Problem, encroachment?
There's a shed that is,
But that's being removed.
that's being removed.
So that's gonna make things better when the shed's gone.
Right.
And they're, making it less non-conforming with regard to the right-of-way setback encroachment, right?
Correct.
All right. And there are no other, like, side boundary encroachments or anything?
No.
So it's actually gonna be better. And Tom just described that there'll be less runoff, even though the structure is bigger, with the way he's managing stormwater and so forth. There'll actually be less runoff with the new structure than there is with the current structure. So I think that addresses the Conservation Commission's concern.
More questions? All? Yes.
Mr. Bonney,
yes.
you said the existing house was 260 feet from shore?
I'll measure right now. It's
Approximately to the back of it, the existing structure is about 260, yes.
yeah, that's right.
Because I'm seeing on here the shoreline setback is at 250, right on inside the corner of the existing home, unless I'm not looking at that correctly.
No, you've got that right. Yeah.
Yeah, the back of the existing structure is about 260 feet from shoreline.
Okay, well, it looks to me like it's less than 250.
Yeah, it is. It's a couple feet, I would say, from my diagram.
And the proposed garage is gonna be closer?
Yes. No, we're going over the 250 line, yeah. Yeah,
The proposed garage, the rear, if you're looking at the shoreline plan,
Yes.
the proposed garage, the right side of it is actually beyond the 250-foot mark. Everything
Correct.
everything to the left of that 250 mark
Mhm.
is in that shoreland area.
Right, okay, okay.
Presently, the present structure is almost entirely within the 200.
Right,
So
okay.
just a little portion sticking, over that 250-foot line.
It's coming over that much further,
All right,
coming
so,
back. Okay.
okay, so if, you have,
No, I'm fine. I had to just clear that up.
so then I'm a little confused. The garage is that encroachment, by saying this right, that it's increasing the nonconformity?
No. What it is, the garage, the house as laid out in that section of the house is conforming to our setbacks.
Right. Mm-hmm.
In this case, the shoreland, 250-foot shoreland sort of bisects the lot, or the back corner of the lot.
Right.
So they're allowed to increase the size of the house within the shoreland area, that whole setback area, the buffer area. Just as long as they're not increasing it to within 50 feet of the lake.
Right.
Okay, to 50 feet.
Right, 50.
This is 250.
Yeah, they're,
So we don't have to worry about the 250-foot,
yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah, at its closest point, it's still, I would say approximately 200 feet to the lake.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
At its,
I just wanted to clarify this.
at its closest point.
Right. I just want to make sure that I understand it, okay? Thought that's, we don't need to worry about the 250.
No.
Okay?
No,
I was just asking
We
which
only-
direction it's going.
We only need to worry about the 50 feet,
if it was there.
if it was there.
Right, and it's not.
And it's not.
Right,
So we don't need to worry about that.
correct.
Got it. Perfect.
good question.
And so the only boundary, the only setback we're really talking about is none of the lot boundary setbacks are being encroached, it's just the right-of-way
Correct.
The right of way.
on Kathy Lane.
Kathy Lane
Correct.
itself.
But, I
Which
don't
is
see,
18 foot 8.
and that's gonna be the variance, right?
Yes, those two.
So I have a question. What is is there any, what is going to be the height of the home itself at its highest point? And will it restrict any of your neighbors' views?
I don't think I can answer the height off the top of my head, although I thought I had done something analyzing that. But I can answer that it is not obstructing any of my neighbors' views. We have walked it with my neighbors just to be absolutely sure.
Okay. So across from Kathy Lane, is there a home there, Mr. Carter?
No, directly across the lot is an empty lot, and actually, the gentleman who owns it is, I think, planning on putting a septic system in there.
Okay. Sometimes we need to worry about that, okay, because if it's an empty lot and somebody can build on that lot, would the new home restrict their view? We just have to take that into consideration. But you're at the end, so I would imagine that one side of has no home on it, and the other one has a home,
Right,
and there it is.
house.
Yeah.
This is where he's talking about.
Right there.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
There's nobody back here.
there's nobody back there now.
Yeah.
Right, right. Where's the water, down here? Okay,
And that lot that's across Kathy Lane from me is not the line of sight to the lake anyway.
okay, okay, I see it. Yep, here's the lake,
Yep.
over here.
Yep.
Okay, real good.
And if I remember correctly, it drops in elevation from the Carter's house. Go up the
Significantly.
bank, you get to Kathy Lane, and then you go to Carter's, then you have to go up another steep to get to Peggy's Cove.
I know it's steep. You can see it right on the, Mr. Varney has elegantly
Yeah.
put
Yeah.
the topographical lines. Mr. Varney, is there any additional impervious or pervious considerations that's being done by the applicant on top of it, other than the storm drains for the runoff?
No, there's a lot of woods, trees left on the property. There are trees coming down, but that's okay within the rules of shoreline. We've covered every base of all the stormwater runoff in impervious areas, so there's nothing. He's not doing anything, there's no porous pavement there or anything like that, so everything is fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Tom, do you know the height of the building? I know you have a lot of drawings here. Just wondering if you knew the height of the building.
No, but you can see this is, it's not a normal building, it's the less higher than most buildings. It's a little different.
Yeah. I think if
Shed roof.
you took the average grade, we're probably at about 24 feet, maybe 23 feet.
Okay?
Yeah, see, this doesn't have the elevation on it, but it's kind of a shed.
Yeah, it's pretty, yeah, it's not a high-pitched roof.
So,
Now, we worked very hard at keeping it low in the design.
Yeah,
You can see it.
yeah, you can see it in the design. Okay, so, you're going for one of the considerations we have to make, and one of the things, Mr. Carter, will be that, you're representing that you'll be going to the, for a septic, design, okay, that will be one of the conditions if we accept the special exception. If we approve the special exception, that it will be conditional on a septic design system that's been approved by the DES. Okay, just so you know, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Mike, any questions? No? All right, Tom, are you all
no,
set?
I'm good.
Paul and Paul? Shall we go to,
And I just want to clarify for the record, this is Paul Manzioni. This is being converted from a seasonal to year-round. Is
Correct.
that right?
Yes.
Okay. No. And just, you have it in the narrative, but I just want to make sure, currently, it sits approximately 17 feet from the roadside property line. I'm not sure if that's referencing the right-of-way, edge, the boundary.
That's
Because
to the property line, to the property boundary.
Okay, so I guess my understanding is that I thought that the current structure was encroaching in the right-of-way setback.
It's in the 25 foot. In this case, we measured, because the property line goes there, take the setback from there, which you would assume is the edge of the right of way. normally, the property line becomes the edge of the right-of-way in this case. So they're taking those measurements to the property line.
Okay, using the property line as the edge of the right-of-way.
Yes.
And under the zoning ordinance, the structure has to be set back 25 feet from the edge of the right-of-way.
Correct.
Now here, the current structure, and I'm just trying to understand the narrative, is only 17 feet from the edge of the right-of-way. Is that right?
Closest point, yes.
At its closest point, which means it should be 25 feet, so it's encroaching about 8 feet.
Correct.
Into the right-of-way setback. The proposed building will only be encroaching into the right-of-way setback by 2 feet 5 inches and 6 feet 4 inches in the places where it will do that. And it says for a total of 61 square feet of encroachment,
Correct.
which the narrative then tells us is 40% less of an encroachment than the current one.
Correct.
So it's actually becoming less non-conforming by how they're building. Yeah, right. Okay. I just wanted to make sure from the narrative using different terms, because they're talking roadside property line. I just wanted to understand that that meant the right-of-way edge or the line by which we would measure the 25-foot setback. Good. Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
Good?
Yeah.
Well, that's just wonderful. Is everyone else? Okay, can we go to the worksheet? Oh, no, public input. Okay. Is there, we're gonna do now, go to the public input, which I forget each and every time. So is there anyone, which way do we go? In favor of this applicant's proposal?
I think you just had to run downstairs for a second.
I know. Josh will be right back. He's the guy that sees if someone's raising their hand or not. So.
He needs to be monitoring.
Yeah, he needs to monitor.
Okay. We just gotta hold on a minute because we've
Okay.
lost our moderator.
Momentarily.
All right.
There's only
On the program? Wait, I think even when I'm gone, you could ask it.
Is there anyone in the audience, in public?
I don't know this well enough to say. So let me.
All right, so we'll wait.
Well, we're gonna wait to make sure that, if there's anyone there that would like to speak in favor,
Raise your hand and when.
raise your hand or do something, but please don't worry about it because, our moderator will be back in a second here.
She has to juggle.
We're not trying to be picky, but currently, there's 61 square feet. Currently, there's 107 square feet, right, into the setback.
Over the
Yes.
setback.
Yes. Okay, they're reducing it to 61.
Mhm.
But isn't it kind of cute, because they're really taking 35 of that 46 feet, they're taking, they're just moving the shed out of there, not really making a big difference here. I mean, it sounds wonderful.
Mhm.
You know, you're going down to 61 square feet into the setback. moving the shed out of the way. Which is fine,
Right,
but it's not like,
right. It's
right?
not the
That's the way,
building.
It's not
I'm
like
reading
all
it
this is
correctly,
coming back.
right?
Yeah.
It's not a true 40.
No, that's
Okay.
right. The building is, right, that's right. But they're voluntarily removing the shed.
Yeah.
And that is part of the non-conforming.
Yeah.
No, but that's a good point. He might have gotten sick.
Yeah.
I mean, he ran out. No.
Okay. Can you explain to me? Because I don't talk about it every time.
Well, no, I know it, but, so, going to special conditions, so like, the lot is, it's got wetlands or
Right.
hills or
Unnecessary
whatever, okay,
hardship.
right, okay. It's got to distinguish it from the property. No fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purpose, so if you go, listen, the purpose of this ordinance is to provide light and air and letting the trucks get in and out, you know, it's a setback. It's like this or whatever, if we were to strictly apply that zoning ordinance to these people that have this, they can be able to do what they want to do. And by the way, we don't have to worry about safety, light or air because
They must be notified, they need help down there.
there's really no reason to strictly enforce the ordinance on these people when everything's okay anyway, and it's not their fault because it's the land or whatever.
Right.
So if we were to strictly enforce it, it would result in a, fees to the water.
What we're looking at.
You know what I mean? You can grant this enough that we've screwed up. Okay, and then the proposed use is.
This is house.
And basically this other thing.
This house here.
Thing, you know,
Right.
it's
It's more verbiage.
Yeah, no, but I mean, those are the kind, and Tim does a good thing because Tim will say to the applicant,
Okay, so,
and that's another criteria the court uses.
all right, our moderator is back. I'm going to the public input, Josh. Okay? Okay. If there is anyone, in the audience, that would like to speak in favor of this application, please, announce yourself and, is there anyone there in favor of this application? Okay, say if there's anyone there in the audience on the teleprompter that is in favor, one more time. Seeing none or hearing of none, is there anyone that is against or not in favor of this application? Is there anyone not in favor of this application one more time? Hearing none, public opinion is closed. Okay. What's the board's pleasure? Do we go to the worksheet or do we need discussion?
Worksheet.
Worksheet? Mike, you okay? Okay. So let's do Z 20-22, and Tom, I'm going to ask you to start.
Okay, special exception worksheet Z 20-22. A plat has been submitted in accordance with the appropriate criteria in Article 500, Section 520B. Yes.
I agree. Yes. Frank Rich, I agree. Yes.
I agree, Paul Urso.
I agree, Paul Manzioni.
I agree, Mike Hepworth.
The specific site is an appropriate location for the use. It's not only an appropriate location, but the applicant has done an excellent job in working within the boundary lines, the setbacks, to accommodate it, everything that, and it's an appropriate location.
I agree. Paul Arshel.
The site is an appropriate location for the use. The use isn't changing. I agree. Paul Manzioni.
I agree, Mike Hepworth.
I agree, Tom Lee.
Factual evidence is not found that the property value in this district will be reduced due to incompatible land uses. This is, in this particular neighborhood, this seems to be the trend of most properties, of rebuilding, redoing their properties, and it's only going to increase property values.
Paul Manzioni, I agree. I think it's not an incompatible land use. It's a compatible land use. And also, I mean, the criteria for these special exceptions exist to prevent overbuilding on these lots and creating monstrosities that don't fit in the envelope or that cause further encroachments or can upset abutters and so forth. None of that is happening here. This is a project that's being well designed and well constructed.
Mike Hepworth, I agree. The property value will be enhanced as a result of this project.
Tom Lee, I agree.
Frank Rich, all the same reasons, I agree.
There is no valid objection from abutters based on demonstrable fact. We heard no public input at all on this. There was no one objected, and there was nothing submitted in writing for the board's consideration.
Mike Hepworth, I agree.
Tom Lee, I agree.
I agree. It's Frank Rich.
I agree, Paul Arshel.
On the back of the sheet, Mike.
On the other side.
There is no undue nuisance or serious hazard to pedestrian or vehicular traffic, including location and design of access ways and off-street parking. I agree with this.
I agree, Tom Lee.
I agree.
I agree, Paul Arshel.
I agree. Nothing in this project is going to in any way affect pedestrian or vehicular traffic.
Okay, facilities, adequate and appropriate facilities and utilities will be provided to ensure the proper operation of the proposed use or structure. That was detailed as far as the septic system, and I don't think there'll be any issues whatsoever.
Frank Rich, I agree.
Paul Arshel, I agree.
Paul Manzioni, I agree, subject to the applicant being in full compliance with the DES requirements regarding the septic.
Mike Hepworth, I agree.
There is adequate area for safe and sanitary sewage disposal and water supply. Based on the fact that the applicant will be applying to the DES, and with the plans showing chambers, I believe that there will be safe and sanitary sewage, and the water supply is there now. So I feel that Frank Rich, that there will be adequate area provided the DES permits are obtained.
I agree.
I agree, Paul Manzioni. I agree for the same reasons.
For the same reasons, I agree. Mike Hepworth.
I agree, Tom Lee.
The proposed use or structure is consistent with the spirit of the ordinance and the intent of the master plan. The proposed structure is being proposed for year-round dwelling, which is most of the homes in that area are year-round dwellings. So the appropriateness of that zone in that Lakeshore residential area, to me, is appropriate for the master plan to increase the year-round living in those homes and make them better homes to live in.
Paul Manzioni, I agree that the proposed use or structure is consistent with the spirit of the ordinance. The ordinance permits this, and they're complying by making it less non-conforming. They're addressing runoff issues, and they're making a better structure that will enhance the area, and all of that is consistent with the master plan as well.
The proposed use is consistent, I agree. Mike Hepworth.
I agree, Tom Lee.
I agree, Frank Rich. Okay. So we've finished that. Can I get a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we grant the application for special exception for case Z 20-22 on the specific condition that the applicant obtain appropriate approvals from the state of New Hampshire, particularly DES, with regard to the septic.
I'll second.
By Paul LaRochelle. Any discussion? Hearing none.
Aye, Tom Lee.
Aye, Frank Rich.
Aye, Paul LaRochelle.
I, Paul Manzioni.
Aye, Mike Hepworth.
Very good. So it's approved unanimously. Congratulations, Mr. Carter and Mr. Varney. And we'll move right along. We'll move right along on Z 20-24. And I would ask either you, Mr. Carter, or you, Mr. Varney, to start the presentation in terms of the variance of and what you're seeking.
Well, I'll take a stab at it again. I think you can see from the drawings that have been presented, as well as the aerial photograph and the other photographs, that it is a tough site. It's got a very odd shape to it, coming to a point down at the heading towards the water. Quite a change in grade as well, from the back of the lot down to the water. So we're trying to get everything squeezed into that just right, and trying to make it into a year-round dwelling that we can live at. Really made some challenges in the design. My wife and I must have spent 6 months designing and redesigning this house. I think the one that you guys see, which is the final one we settled on, is version 22.6.
I believe it.
But and for all the very same reasons as talked about in the special exception, I feel that it is appropriate, hopefully, to get an approval on this variance.
Tom, Barney, do you have anything more that you want to add to that?
Yeah, the house sits within the site. There's banking behind it and on the back, so it fits into kind of a hollowed out area in the landscape over there at Peggy's Cove. And the road is just to the beach, this parking area, and then one cottage or one house. That's all the traffic that goes on that road. So it's fits in the site fairly well.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different design house. It's not a colonial house or anything. So it's kind of a one-floor house, I believe, with a garage. So the property line is back from the traveled way of the road, so the road is farther out than normal. It stands out away from the property. So it's all a little different here. So somewhat different than a typical lot shape property.
Okay. Anything more, Mr. Carter?
No, I think that should be everything. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board? Questions on the variance?
So, if I may, this is all just because that the new building is going to encroach into the right-of-way setback?
But the request is to 320JC,
Right,
which says that the structure shall not create a new non-conforming aspect of the structure. So there are two small areas, the ones in green, and they're new areas, so that is what that request is to. They're not increasing the non-conforming aspect of the structure,
right,
they're decreasing it. It's just presently, it's the deck area that is non-conforming, that is encroaching, and they're removing that, and these two corners of the house down here where the lower driveway is gonna come in, lower parking area is gonna be, are the two new areas. So that's the variances to that section.
so those two encroachments don't currently exist.
Correct.
They wanna, so how far into the, right-of-way setback will First Little Corner be? 2.5 feet or 2.5?
2 foot 5 inches for one and 6 foot 4 inches for the other. And at that point, the larger of the two will still be 30 feet, 2 inches from the edge of the travelway of
Travelway.
Kathy Lane.
Right,
And the other section will be 32 feet, 4 inches from the edge of the travelway.
although those, a travelway could be widened as long as it's within the right-of-way. I mean, I don't know the chances of doing that here, but there could be,
It could,
down the road, someone might decide to widen that travelway. But,
yeah.
no,
But at that point, they still would be,
Well, wait,
almost 18 foot, 8 inches, and then 22.
unfortunately, the way this configuration of this lot is, even if he was to move it down to the left, it becomes more of an encroachment.
right,
Because it, he's got to work to the right-hand side. Mr. Carter, how much land is on this entire piece? How much, it's what acreage?
Quarter acre.
Quarter acre?
126.
And look, so it's long and narrow.
Right.
So, it's just, he'd be in worse shape if he moved it down.
right, right. And it's only, 2.2 feet, 5 inches,
Right.
to the edge of the, right-of-way, and 6 feet on the other one, so, and they're still a ways from the travelway, so.
Exactly double of your height.
Yes, thank you. 2 feet.
2.25. It was 5 foot nothing.
Like the three of us are so tall.
All right. I have no other questions, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Monzioni. Okay? Does any other members have any questions? No. Tom?
No.
No. Paul? Mike? No. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna go to, if there's no more questions, I'm gonna go, is there anyone, in public input in favor of this application, this variance? On Z-24, 2024. I'm gonna ask it again, is there anyone in favor of this application, Z-20-24? Hearing none, is there anyone opposed to this application, or against this application on Z-2024? I'm going to ask it again. Is there anyone out there that is opposed to this applicant's Z-2024? Hearing none, public input is closed, which then brings me to discussion. Any discussions? Mike? No. Paul?
No.
Tom?
No.
No. Shall we go to the worksheet?
Yes.
Okay, Paul LaRochelle, would you start for us?
The variance will not be contrary to the public interest.
Is that all you have to
That's all I
say?
got to say.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sums it up.
Paul Montioni, I agree. I think the public interest to keep structures away from the edge of a right-of-way will in no way be harmed or not served by the 2 feet, 5-inch, half my height encroachment, or even the 6 foot 4, my actual height encroachment on this. This will not be contrary to the public interest.
Mike Hepworth, I agree.
Lee, I agree.
Frank Rich, I agree.
The request is in harmony with the spirit of the zoning ordinance, the intent of the master plan, with the convenience, health, and safety and character of the district within which it is proposed. This setback to keep things 25 feet from a right-of-way is designed for a number of reasons, for safety and proper placement and so forth, spreading things out. These 2 spots that I've referenced earlier, encroaching into that right-of-way setback, are in no way contrary to the intent of the zoning ordinance or the master plan. And really, when this building is done, I think the convenience, health, and safety and character of the district are going to be improved.
Mike Hepworth, I agree.
Lee, I agree.
For all of those reasons, I agree. Frank Rich.
Paul LaRochelle, I agree.
Substantial justice, by granting the variance, substantial justice will be done. I agree. Mike Hepworth.
Lee, I agree.
Frank Rich, I agree.
Paul LaRochelle, I agree.
Paul Montioni, I agree.
Okay, values of surrounding properties. The request will not diminish the value of the surrounding properties. I think this is really a unique case where, with Tom and Drew working through this, Drew and his wife, this is really working well within the ordinances to make this a more conforming structure. Very difficult piece of property, and it's a testament to the hard work that was put into this, and it certainly will not diminish the value of the surrounding properties, as has been duly noted before with all single-family homes.
For all of those reasons, and the idea that the applicant spent especially an inordinate time trying to fit this into their property, into the property, and I commend them for spending the time, energy, and money to make it work on this property.
I agree as well, for the same reasons. Paul LaRochelle.
Paul Montioni, I agree. It will not diminish the value of the surrounding properties.
Mike Hepworth, I agree. It will not diminish the value of the surrounding properties.
For, let's see, for hardship, for purposes of the subparagraph, unnecessary hardship means that owing to the special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, no fair or substantial relationship exists between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of this provision to the property. The hardship here is it's a very irregular lot. The encroachments, the variance that's being utilized is within the spirit of the master plan to try to accommodate these kinds of lots. The hardship is a tough one, okay, and because of the configuration of the lot. And the proposed use is a reasonable one, yes.
I agree. The proposed use is a reasonable one.
And are you agreeing with the first part as well?
Yes, I am.
Paul Manzioni, I agree, no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purpose of the ordinance and the specific application of that provision of this property. If we were to strictly apply the setback, the right-of-way setback to this circumstance, given the configuration of this lot, it wouldn't help the town at all. It would be very detrimental to the applicant. So there's no fair relationship doing that. And also the proposed use is reasonable. It's the use isn't changing. It's a residential. It's going the year round, but that's consistent with the area.
For the stated reasons, I agree. Mike Hepworth?
Same. I agree, Tom Lee.
We don't need that last one, right, the summer?
No.
All right, having gone through all of the worksheet, can I get a motion?
I would move that we grant the application for variance for case Z20-24 on the same conditions as those set forth in the special exception.
Second that motion. Tom Lee.
Second by Tom Lee. Tom?
Agree. Aye.
Aye. Frank Rich?
I, Paul Arisho.
I, Paul Manzioni.
Aye, Mike Hepworth.
Very good. That's unanimous. Okay. So, the variance is approved, Mr. Carter and Tom, and we wish you good luck. When the house is finished, we would like to have a party on the top of the roof, looking at the stars. Okay? Okay, it's the only request, additional request. You can, we'll even bring the hooch, okay? So, good luck.
All right, we'll see what we can do about that. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
job.
Okay. I'm gonna move right along on to Z20-23 unless anyone has to make a stop or anything. Is everybody okay?
That's fine.
Josh, are you okay? All right? Yeah? Okay. So we're gonna move to Z-2023. Timothy and Carol Slinger? Slider, okay, excuse me, okay, obviously I can't read. And Agent Steve Holmes, do we have the Sliders out there and Mr. Holmes out there?
Mr. Holmes is representing the Slighters.
I'm sorry?
Mr. Holmes is representing the Slighters.
Okay. Mr. Holmes?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Great. Welcome, and if you could start your presentation, please.
You want to accept your
We need to
Oh,
accept
dear Lord. Okay, I'm sorry. Hold on one second, Mr. Holmes. We have to look to make sure that we can accept the application. Just give us a second.
I make a motion to accept case number Z20-23 as complete.
Okay, Paul Rochelle makes the motion. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Mike Hepworth, seconded. All in favor?
Aye, Tom Lin.
Aye, Frank Rich.
I, Paul LaRochelle.
I, Paul Manzioni.
I, Mike Hepworth.
Okay. All right, so, if you don't mind, I'd like to call you Steve. Is that okay, or Steven?
Steve is good.
Steve, please, start your presentation. Thank you.
Sure. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for your time and consideration. This is a project for the Sliders Cottage located on Alton Bay Christian Conference Center. Currently, they have a shed addition on the side of the building, as you can see in the photos. It's about 4 feet by 10 feet. The lowest point of the ceiling is about 6, so you have to be careful where you stand if you're over 6 feet. Their request is to tear this shed bathroom off and to replace it with a little bit larger addition, in which they will also have a storage closet and a washer and dryer. The concern that I saw stated by the water department has been addressed because the floor level will be no higher than it currently is, so the water line will still be below the bathroom. Do you have any questions?
Gentlemen? It appears to me that there's only a few of us that would probably be able to use the existing bathroom.
Can I ask,
And they're on my left hand.
if I could ask, so this picture of this shed that's, looks like it's attached to the main structure, that's the bathroom?
That is the
inside there?
bathroom. That's correct.
So that's not a heated or insulated space or anything, or is it?
No.
Okay, so it's not heated, it's not insulated.
The
And
cottage
in
is not heated. Well, the cottage does have a heat source in the living room, but not in the bathroom.
Okay, so, this is all gonna remain a seasonal structure,
That is correct.
okay? And then that thing's getting torn off, and then you're gonna build, attach pretty much a room to the current structure, is that right?
Yeah, it'll look very much the same, except that it'll be about 4 feet wider.
Okay, so it's going right where that is,
That's
but
correct.
it'll be 4 feet wider. So in other words, it'll extend out from the structure 4 feet farther, or is it gonna get longer? Like,
Well, it's going to be
You know what I-
4 feet further out from the structure. As you look
Okay.
at the end of that shed, it'll be just 4 feet wider.
and then is the roof going to remain the same style with that same pitch?
Yes, it will be, but it'll be a little bit higher so that the lowest point of the roof will be 7 feet rather than 6 feet.
And the reason that a variance to do that instead of just a building permit, I mean, a special exception is needed instead of just a building permit, is because it's a non-conforming structure because it's in the Christian campground.
Non-conforming
That is
use,
correct.
Yes.
Except this particular building probably is at least 150 feet from the next residence. It's almost by itself.
Yeah, but every building in that campground is non-conforming by definition. But yes, you're right, and I get that. Why are we saying non-conforming use?
Because because it's a residential zone and only one dwelling is allowed per lot.
Oh, right. So because there are multiple dwelling structures, it's a violation, every one of them is in violation of use.
Non-conforming use, yeah.
Right.
There's no setback.
There's no
No,
setback issue, right, right. So it's not a structural thing, it's a use thing by virtue of the building existing where it exists.
Correct.
Right. That's right. So anything that gets done there has to be.
Every home there has the same issue.
Yeah, has the same issue, exactly. Right. Yeah. And the campground. Right.
So the inside height will be at 7 feet, is that correct?
At the lowest point, it'll still be like a
At the lowest.
cathedral ceiling.
Yeah, I got it.
Will all that exterior plumbing that's visible now, is that going to be in any way changed?
It will not be as evident because most of it will be underneath the new structure. The water line is still the black PVC that lays on the line. That's the way the cottages are fed with the town water.
Yeah, yeah. And will it vent through the roof?
Yes,
There's electricity in there?
yes, there is.
Right, okay. And all of that, of course, is going to be pursuant to building permit and code requirements and so forth as it's being constructed.
That is
Yes.
correct.
None of that.
Thank you.
More questions from the board? Mike? No? No.
Yeah, one question.
Yes, Tom?
Steve, you're adding a washer dryer. There's not a washer dryer unit in the current house,
No, there is not.
and so that would have to meet code as far as gray water and
It's all gonna,
fall into the grounds. Right. Okay. All right, thank you.
They actually have to get approval from the conference center in order to have a washer dryer in there.
Okay. Thank you.
This is Paul LaRochelle, Steve. What is in front, in the front corner of, right directly across from the washer and dryer? What is that actually showing? In your drawing?
I don't have the drawing in front of me.
Okay. I'm just trying to,
there's a storage closet and a shower unit.
okay, because I was trying to see where the shower unit actually was.
As you're looking at the drawing, it's to the right.
To the right.
Right corner, and then it's.
In the right corner there, that's where the shower itself is, and the washer and dryer next to it.
Right.
Okay. That's just a single stand-up shower.
Yes. Yeah, I think they're looking at a 48-inch.
And you'll be putting, I presume sonotubes,
Yes,
new sonotubes, for the construction.
that is
for the
correct.
footing.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions from the board? Okay. If there are no more questions from the board, I'm going to go to public input. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in approval of Z-2023? I'm going to say it one more time. Is there anyone on Z-2023 that would like to speak for the approval, okay, of this application? Hearing none, is there anyone that would like to oppose or disagree with the applicant's application? Hearing none, I'm going to ask again, is there anyone that would be opposed to this application that's in the public interest? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public input, and I'm going to go to the special exception worksheet at the pleasure of the board. Is there any discussion before we go to the worksheet, or shall we go to the worksheet? Everybody, the worksheet? Okay. So, Paul, could you start, please?
Plat has been submitted in accordance with the appropriate criteria in Article 500, Section 520B.
Mike Hepworth, I agree.
Tom Lee, I agree.
Frank Rich, I agree.
Paul LaRochelle, I agree.
Appropriateness, the specific site is an appropriate location for the use. Yes, I agree.
Tom Lee, I agree.
The location being in the Christian, what is that called?
Conference Center, campground.
Conference Center, okay, is always a challenge for this board, but under the circumstances, it is absolutely an appropriate location. The specific site and what the applicant is trying to do is an appropriate location for the use.
I agree. Paul LaRochelle.
Paul Manzioni, I agree. The location is exactly where now the bathroom is now. This is just going to slightly expand and improve it.
I agree. Mike Hepworth.
I agree. Tom Lee. I agree. Paul LaRochelle.
Factual evidence is not found that the property value in the district will be reduced due to incompatible land use. It's compatible land use. It's an upgrade to the current property. I feel it will not decrease any property value.
For those reasons, I agree.
I agree as well. Paul LaRochelle.
I agree. Paul Manzioni.
Property value will not be reduced. I agree.
There is no valid objections from the abutters based on demonstrated fact. There were no abutters that objected to it. It's a reasonable use, and that's all there is to it.
I agree as well. Paul LaRochelle.
Paul Manzioni, I agree.
I agree. Mike Hepworth.
I agree. Tom Lee.
There is no undue nuisance or serious hazard to pedestrians or vehicular traffic, including the location and design of access ways and off-street parking. This is many, many feet from any right-of-way, sidewalk, walking area, distance from other homes. So this is no undue nuisance to hazard pedestrians or vehicle traffic.
Paul Manzioni, I agree. There's nothing about this project that's going to in any way affect vehicular or pedestrian traffic.
I agree. Mike Hepworth.
Agree. Tom Lee.
I agree, Frank Rich.
Adequate and appropriate facilities will be provided to ensure the proper operation of the proposed use or structure. The applicant agent has represented that this is a seasonal use. The bathroom is there now. It's water supplied by the town, and nothing about this project is going to in any way diminish that adequacy.
Mike Hepworth, I agree.
Tom Lee, I agree.
Frank Rich, I agree.
Paul LaRochelle, I agree.
Sewage. There is adequate area for safe and sanitary sewage disposal and water supply. Given that there's already an existing bathroom structure there, the addition of a washer dryer, I'm sure will be absolutely compliant. I agree.
Tom Lee, I agree.
I agree. Frank Rich.
Paul LaRochelle, I agree.
Paul Manzioni, I agree.
Regards to intent, the proposed use or structure is consistent with the spirit of this ordinance and the intent of the master plan. I agree, Tom Lee.
I agree, Frank Rich.
I agree, Paul LaRochelle.
I agree. The criteria for special exception permit this, so it's consistent with the ordinance, and the intent of the master plan is to encourage this type of improvement.
I agree, Mike Hepworth.
Okay, having gone through the special exception worksheet, may I get a motion from the board?
Make a motion to approve the special exception for case Z 20-23.
Second that motion, Tom Lee.
Seconded by Tom Lee. Any discussion? No discussion? Tom, can I get you?
I'm all set.
Yep, you agree? Frank
Tom Lee,
Rich,
aye.
I agree.
Paul Rochelle, I agree.
Paul Manzioni, aye.
Mike Epworth, aye.
It's unanimous. Okay, very good. So we're all set there. Thank you very much, and we wish you good luck, and hope everything goes well for you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you, John Dever, for the assistance that you gave me. It was invaluable.
You're welcome.
Well, don't, it goes to his head. Be careful, okay? It just, you don't want to give him too many kudos, okay? Hey, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Good evening.
Good night.
You too.
Okay. Does anybody need to take a break, or can we move right along?
Move right.
All set? All set? Mike? Paul? Paul? Okay. John?
Move right along.
Mr. Moderator? Okay, buddy.
Good.
All right, moving right along to the agenda. Ooh, man, we are moving. Okay, extension request, case Z1822, Chris Nato, PE Novus Engineering for Blue Planet funding, William Heck, applicant, David Hussey. Is Chris Nato there, or Mr. Hussey, or whoever?
Chris Neto here from Novus Group, and we also have Alan Funk from Blue Planet.
Yes, I'm here as well. Thank you.
Welcome, gentlemen, okay? If you'll just give us a second so we can just review the application, and then we can get started, okay?
Yeah, but it's not with the
There's no
same
abutters,
requirements,
there's no
right,
abutters,
right,
anything like that,
exactly,
so-
exactly.
Just making sure that that's,
Yeah.
maybe we should say it for the record.
Yeah.
Paul, not having gone through an extension, I'd like you to lead this one, if you don't mind, okay?
Yeah, sure.
And we're just help us through it, okay?
I remember everything very well with this case.
And you two were, I believe, the only two that were,
That were on the board at that time, yeah.
okay, so,
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, the application is not the same as, the original application seeking this is
we're seeking.
the special exception. So all they're doing is asking for more time.
What time?
And it's not, the application does not have to meet the same requirement as a application for variance or special exception. So it just sets forth a basis for their request, which I believe is done here. And so
They were already approved.
right, this was granted, and in fact, the minutes of the meeting, as well as the notice of decision, this was granted on August 3rd, 2018, after the application was reviewed and considered, and a hearing was held the applicant had the application granted. I believe it was unanimous.
It was.
Decision. Now, under the statutes, once a application for special exception has been granted, that authority for the grant remains in effect, I believe, for 2 years pursuant to state statute. And the applicant is free to go back to the board and seek an extension of time for that. And it's not the same criteria. It's within the board's discretion. And they simply need to present their basis and make the request, and the board can make a determination. So in light of that, I would move that we accept the application for extension of decision as complete.
I would second that and add that under the circumstances, it's understandable for the extension.
Oh, sure. But I think we should take the application in first, the application for extension, accept it as complete, see what the applicant would like to add, and as, proceed.
Aye, Tom Lee.
Aye, Frank Rich.
Aye, Paul LaRochelle.
Did somebody second it?
I did.
Oh, I'm sorry. Aye, Paul Manzioni.
Aye, Mike Hepworth.
Great. Okay, so, is it Mr. Nato?
Yes,
Yeah, you can proceed, please.
great. Thank you. Alan, do you want to just make the case for why we're asking for the extension?
Yeah, I think I should definitely say something. So we had financing in place to begin construction, what would have been this spring. And in that timeframe that we all remember too well, which is late February, early March 2020, when COVID-19 became the issue that it still is. Our financing partner put all U.S., this is a Canadian partner, put all U.S. projects on hold, which effectively brought our project to what we had hoped would be a temporary stop, but they have remained unwilling to move forward. So we embarked about 2 months after that on seeking new funding with different partners. And that, in this environment, is tedious. And we were in due diligence with funding partners, and we hope to have that complete shortly. But in the process of going through what has been a lengthy process, getting a new financing partner, we've lost our construction window for 2020. It should really, these things take about 4 months to build. We would have had to have started, no later than, let's say, July 1st, and be done with the project before the first, the ground freezes hard and the snow flies in, maybe late October, but certainly November. And also, we're reliant on construction partners having availability. And as the end of the year comes, in the Northeast in particular, our building partners get booked up, and it's impossible for us to get time with them now to even do civil work, which should be required before we would set the modules or drive pilings and lay wires. So this puts us into next spring. So the extension is simply recognizing that this was, hopefully, this is what we're applying for, recognizes this has been a very difficult year for financial partners and for trying to get projects into construction, not because the weather's been bad, but because financing is essential for these types of projects. They roughly run, this one's about $6+ million. You need a fairly solvent third-party financier, major player. We have other projects in New Hampshire in a similar boat. So in total, this is roughly, $35 to $40 million across roughly 8 sites. So it's all rises or falls together, and to the extent we have financing either suspended or stopped because of external circumstances such as those we've experienced, it takes some time to restart the momentum on that. And then, if it happens at the wrong time of year, you miss your window. and we're back talking to the zoning board as we are today. So I think that's kind of in a nutshell what we've experienced, and I would still express great optimism that we will be in construction early spring or mid-spring, depending on the exact weather that we would see, but we would plan to do that. And Chris is our obviously engineering partner to make sure that we satisfy all requirements, and we already have done so for things like stormwater, and we have to go to the planning board and make sure we have our building permits too. Chris?
Yeah, that really summarizes it pretty well. So we're happy to answer questions.
So this is Tom Lee. I just wanted to go through the timeline here so it's clear to me. Special exception was approved on August 3rd, 2018. Correct. Per the note submitted here, the planning board then gave official approval on November 8th of 2019 to go forward with their plans. So with that sets the clock in motion as the November 8th, or is it the August 3rd of 2018? I'm just trying to make sure we're in the window.
It would be two different time frames. So whatever approvals they obtained at the planning board, which we were not a part of, obviously, and I don't know anything about that other than what they tell us, would have to be dealt with themselves through that board. But our clock on the special exception would begin ticking when Paul LaRochelle, as chairman, signed the notice of decision. So they actually obtained that orally at the hearing, probably a day or so earlier. And then, but the clock doesn't start ticking till the notice of decision has been signed. So that's August 3rd.
Yeah. So the 2-year window then is effectively up August 3rd of 2020.
That's
right.
Understanding, right?
Yeah, which is come and gone, but
Which is coming on.
I understand the different circumstances.
Right, right.
Whole criteria. I just want to make that record on record.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense. But I think my question for the applicant is procedural. I mean, I think obviously there's more than sufficient grounds set forth. You know, the statutory requirement, I think, is designed just to keep applicants from doing absolutely nothing. You know, if you go out there and start your project, get a shovel in the ground, start the project, and you run into finance trouble, or you run into, at least you've started, you know, but if for reasons, logistical reasons, no work gets started or whatever, and it makes sense not to start the work because of things like financing and so forth, as long as efforts are being made, I think, to pursue the project, so it's not being abandoned, it's not being dragged out unnecessarily. And in my opinion, it's, you know, sufficient reasons of being presented to us now. The only question I have is procedurally, because the special exception was granted to Dave Huzzy as trustee of the trust and owner of the property. So we actually have someone before us this evening who is not the applicant or the entity or person who received the special exception asking for the extension. Now, there's no letter of agency. The letter does to the planning board. You do have a letter of agency?
Yeah. Mr. Hussey emailed today.
Oh, today? Well, I haven't seen it. Oh, good. Oh, good. So who did he give agency?
To Novus or Blue Planet and
oh, good. So he's giving it to both.
Right.
Okay, good. And that letter to the planning board does ask for the extension on Dave's behalf, but without Dave's letter. So you're saying that Dave provided authority?
Yes.
Yeah, that was my only real question, was whether the application was appropriate procedurally, given that the person asking us for an extension was not the person who received the special exception. So good, that clarifies it. Thank you.
But to Tom's point,
Yeah.
in a procedural problem because we're over the 2-year limit?
Well, that's a good question. Without having the RSA, the state statute in front of me, I don't know, but what I would say is, within our discretion, if we grant this thing, if that's a violation of the statute, then it's not gonna help the applicant any, and I don't know, I mean, I guess we could be subject to challenge.
Well, if I can
Yeah.
interrupt, it is on their attachment. Variances and special exceptions authorized under RSA 674,
674, yeah.
colon 33, paragraph 1 and paragraph 4 as amended, shall be valid if exercised within 2 years from the final approval, or as further extended by local ordinance or by the zoning board of adjustment for good cause, provided that no such variance or special exception shall expire within 6 months after the resolution of the planning application.
That's in conjunction with planning. And one of the.
Oh, wait a minute, get the last part again, provided that no such.
Provided that no such variance or special exception shall expire within 6 months after the resolution of a planning application filed in reliance upon the variance.
So that if there was say they came for the special exception in August of 2018,
Right.
and then didn't get to.
They took more than 6 months to get to the planning board.
Yeah, if it got to the point where once their approval was granted by the planning board, the ZBA approval would expire within 6 months, then it could become an issue, but,
When did the planning board give approval?
in 2018.
Right,
So it was shortly there, they proceeded from the zoning board to the planning board. And and through the source of the hearing, they had to go to a number of hearings. That wasn't something so their final major site plan, approval was on May 21st of 2019.
Their first hearing was in 2018.
yeah.
They, and then in order to get the plans signed, the plans weren't signed till November of 2019,
Right,
but there were conditions precedent that had to be met before they could sign the plans.
but the 2-year statutory requirement contemplates all that. So in other words, once somebody, people come to the ZBA first because they don't want to spend all that time and money until they have their special exception, obviously. That's the first step in the process. They come here, they get a special exception, it gets signed by the chairman, the 2-year clock starts ticking to do everything that you've just described, to get it all done. And if they don't get it all done within that 2 years, then it expires, and they have to reapply and start all over. They, in my opinion, with what they've submitted and what you've just described they went through, I think they have established good cause for an extension, because they haven't just been sitting on their hands. They've been doing a lot of things, including going to the planning board, and they've been working with financing and all of that. My only problem is a legal one, and I don't know the answer to this because I'd have to research how the statute has been interpreted and so forth. And Frank makes the point, and Tom makes the point that if the special exception already expired, say in August, on August 3rd of 2020, can we, even though they're presenting us with good cause, can we extend it when it's beyond the statutory period already? Otherwise, why is there a statutory period? I think the applicant has an obligation to request an extension within the 2 years, knowing that they're not going to get it done in the 2 years, to come before us and extend it while it's still in effect. After it expires, it's dead, maybe, but I don't know that. And if we have the discretion to do that now, in fairness to the applicant, if we were to do that, it may not be worth the paper it's written on. It may not be worth the decision we're making if indeed we have no authority to expand an application that's already expired. And it may make, if there was an abutter or anybody with standing out there who wished to challenge that, it may make the applicant as well as the board subject to court challenge. So my suggestion would be, and the last thing I want to do is delay this, is maybe we need to get advice from town council on whether we have the authority right now to grant this request for extension, given that the request comes in beyond the 2-year period.
Well, and if I may.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, because I had this conversation with Attorney Sessler. West Alton Marina was a similar situation.
Yeah,
They hadn't actually begun construction. However, what the statute says, it says that special exceptions granted by the board unless otherwise extended shall expire within 2 years of the granting if not exercised. And that is what you're reading is what you're reading there is not what we have on our notice as a decision. That it continues on. That continues on. So what they've quoted there is also we go directly to 674-33-4.
yeah, 674:33, Roman 4, right? It says,
And then it says,
yeah,
provided that it's, and then that just goes into that
if not exercised.
if exercised.
It says shall expire, so it's mandatory language, it shall.
If not exercised. So the discussion that I had previously,
Yes.
the other said was, what defines exercising?
Right.
So, and in the case of West Alton, we felt that they had exercised it because although they had not physically broken ground, they had the engineering, they'd done the planning board process. They had met all the conditions precedent in order to have their plan signed to be able to begin construct. You know, it was similar to this.
Taken action.
We looked at the amount of action that had gone on and the amount of money that had been invested.
Right.
You know, to that point, that we were comfortable that they had exercised, you know, they had met that criteria.
In motion.
We felt that had met that criteria.
So,
So the part of the question here would be in my opinion, the question here is, would the board, the ZBA, look at what has been done so far and feel that it would meet that criteria of, yes, they have exercised it to this point?
well, what I would say to that is that if they had, then they don't need to be here. It's inconsistent to grant an application for extension when no extension is required, because it only expires if they have not exercised it. So, you know, you give somebody a special exception to build a bathroom onto a building, and they wait 2 years and 3 months before they start construction, their special exception has expired, right? Because they did nothing. If he goes out there and starts building the bathroom, and it takes him 3 years to build it, then he's working within the special exception that was granted to him to build the bathroom. There's no time requirement for when you finish the project. I don't know what exercise means in this setting, but I will say that if they have exercised the special exception that was granted them, then they don't need to be here asking for an extension of it. It's only if they know they're not going to exercise it within 2 years, then while the 2 years is still pending, they come before us and extend it, say another 2 years. So it's just posing an issue for me that I don't fully understand what we can do, and I don't think it's beneficial to anyone for us to make a decision that isn't sustainable legally. If the board, they either have exercised it or they haven't. If they haven't exercised it, then it expired within 2 years, which was on August 3rd of this year. So, it just is raising an issue with me that I don't know how to resolve.
Yeah.
Right?
And there is a confusion on the point where in the letter for Novus that was submitted again from the client, it's basically they're coming up on a November 8th date of 2020 where they had to start construction. So that was per the planning board, not this board. So I think they may have to do some follow-up there in the next few days to make sure they follow that criteria. But in my opinion, they've exercised the special exception portion.
So, hold on one second.
Yeah.
So let me ask a question to the applicant. Was there a reason why you didn't come to the ZBA before this time? In August? Hello?
Yeah, no, we're here. I'm not sure I have a good answer for that. I was aware of the start of construction. We're on the agenda for the planning board meeting, which I think is next week. Because we're obviously not going to make the onset of true construction. But to your point about, best efforts and actually, carrying out a lot of other activity, we have done so. We've made multiple rounds of engineering drawings and changes to meet the planning board's conditions, and had those plans ready to go. I think on the advice of Chris, who's here on the call, that we would, just to be on the safe side, that we would also secure your blessing so that we had not somehow lost the special exception when we go back and get our building permit. But, I don't know how to unravel the legal question. Maybe Chris is better versed on these things.
Could I, if I may, Mr. Chairman, this is Paul Manzioni again. It appears to me that the planning board, in its approval, in its granting of approval, gave them specific deadlines to meet certain conditions. Condition number 5, construction shall be started, et cetera. Much more detailed requirements than anything we gave them. So I do think, not that my opinion counts, but I do think that they probably correctly need to go to the planning board and say, hey, we're trying, but we're not getting the construction done. We're not meeting all the specific conditions the planning board imposed, and they can get those extended. I think that's appropriate that they're doing it. I think that we as a board have the ability to decide that they have exercised the special exception by virtue of their activity since obtaining it, and that there's no need to grant the request for special exception, but rather we can make a determination that it hasn't expired, that there's no need, because they've been doing stuff. They just haven't finished what they're doing.
Hold on. Okay. So some of the things that you've done in terms of this is to the applicant, either one of you can speak on this, but it's probably more the engineer. Have you done test pits at the site?
Yes, we have.
Bingo! Okay. You've exercised, okay?
And there's been
And they've cleared trees.
You've been clearing, de-stumping.
Yeah.
What else have you done on the site that?
The
Anything
property
I know?
owner is actually, the property owner, Dave Hussey, has actually been doing some clearing and moving rocks around and grubbing. So he's actually been doing work. Blue Planet
Right.
hasn't done any work, but Dave Hussey has as the property owner.
Has been in motion.
Okay, so it's been in motion. You've been exercising it. You've got some deadlines with the planning board. We're not experts on these RSAs. Okay, I'm just saying that to you. But certainly it appears to, at least to me, the chairman, that, and with your permission, Mr. Manzioni, that it appears that they have exercised their, the applicant has exercised it. So they've been in the works on all of this. And, I think we can move on this. Okay? We can make a decision. Okay? Knowing full well that it could be challenged, but let's just see if there's anybody out there. Is there anything else that you guys would like to talk about, or or we're gonna go to public input? Do I need
No,
to go to
I don't.
public input?
No, we don't have anything else, anything further.
Okay.
No, that's
Do
it.
we need to go to public input?
No.
No, this is a decision that's within the discretion of the board.
Just the discretion?
Yeah, the discretion of the board. You might ask for public input, we can receive it if we want.
Is there anybody out there? No?
I personally feel comfortable with moving forward, knowing the fact that this project has been in motion since it was granted. And it said it in the explanation that Mr. Hussey had been beginning to tree removal, stump removal, rock removal. So this is all, that exercise is the beginning.
Well, to me, a big issue is if you're the engineering and you've already done test pits.
Yes.
And you've done soil exploration, that to me is even more than just moving rocks, you know?
Correct.
That's,
Correct, exactly.
yeah,
And may I,
certainly.
were they to have been able to obtain their financing and come to the town in, say, March, and want a building permit, they would have got it. The only thing that they're lacking to obtain the building permit is the financing to back up the construction itself. So that's beyond the purview of me or any, but if they were to walk in the door and say, we got the money, we're ready to go, we would have issued the permit.
Okay, so another
They had
question.
met all the rest of the requirements.
Has the financing been obtained? And do you have permanent financing?
Well, so it's never as clean as a yes and no answer in the world of financing. We have commitments from financiers, so the answer to that is yes, but they go through an extensive due diligence process that is not complete. So then you might say, well, then the answer is no. So you can take from that what you wish, but we have what we believe is a permanent finance partner close to completing the funding for this project. They've been in no particular rush because they knew they would not be able to start construction this year. But I'm expecting them to wrap up here any day.
Okay, so just a question I have to the board. When we give an extension, how long is the extension for?
Well, I think it's up to the request of they were asking for 18 months of the planning board, but we could give another 2 years on extension, sure.
Another 2 years?
Yeah.
So we would do a proviso of another 2 years. Is that how we would
Yeah, we could extend it for another 2 years.
extend it for another 2 years?
But I think the applicant was right to come here out of an abundance of caution, just to be sure. But I think that the special exception that was granted and signed on August 3rd, 2018, was to permit the construction of a utility-scale solar energy system / solar farm within a rural zone. There was no other condition imposed on this, and as far as I'm concerned, the clearing and stumping of trees, test pits, the work that began is the construction. We didn't condition it on getting the construction completed by a certain deadline. They've begun the construction. They have the arguments that they need to make is with the planning board and whether they've got the financing and how far along they are in these benchmarks or whatever that were imposed on them.
We gave no conditions.
We gave no condition. We just granted it for them to permit the construction. And they've begun the construction from what they've represented to us today. And on that basis, I think they have exercised the special exception. Listen, this is a complicated project, a solar farm. They've got a number of obstacles to deal with, including COVID and all that stuff. So it just seems to me like if you're building something and it's not the run-of-the-mill, turn a shed into a bathroom type construction, it could take longer than 2 years. But there's a lot of factors, and they started the project,
Yes.
So I think if there's no objection, and to make it formal, I would make a motion on this case Z 18-22, that we find that no extension is required on the grounds that the applicant had indeed exercised its special exception within the 2-year requirement by virtue of the work and activities they engaged in during that time period.
Yep.
I would make that motion.
I would second that motion.
Second that motion?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Yeah,
Any
I
discussion?
agree, and I think if we made another extension, there's no need. We're actually overstepping our bounds. They're in their full right. It's a good,
Yes.
like you said,
Not only that, if we granted the extension, let's say gave them 2 more years or something, we run into that issue of the fact that if you were granting an extension, then it expired.
right.
And it expired before they came in for the extension. And by the way, I don't think it did.
We're saying that it didn't expire.
That's right. No.
We gave them no time.
That's exactly what he's saying, is they began the work, but we never put a deadline on it.
We never put a deadline. Okay.
Nor would we, really, in my opinion, give a
Right, because
deadline.
it's really more the planning board.
That's
up to the planning board.
Those
Planning
kinds
board
of
issue.
details
Right.
are for the planning board.
Mike, you
Makes
feel?
sense.
No, it makes sense. I agree.
Okay, all right, so, I have a motion, I have a second. We've gone to a discussion. Any more discussion? No more discussion? I don't have to do public notice, and I was ready to do public notice, okay, for the first time, getting it right, and I didn't have to do it. Okay, going to you, Tom.
In favor, aye. Tom Lee.
Frank Rich, aye.
Paul LaRochelle, aye.
Paul Montioni, aye.
Hi, Mike Hepworth.
Okay, so, guys, applicants, you understand where we've gone here, okay? We've made the decision not to extend for another 2 years because you don't need to have it. We gave you an unlimited time frame under the zoning board. That is not the case with the planning board, but the zoning board, we're comfortable that you've exercised your
Special exception.
the special exception.
Thank you.
Yes, makes sense. Thank you very much.
Okay, really wish you good luck, okay?
Appreciate it.
Hopefully, the financing will go through, you'll get this thing up and going, and, you get some electricity going, okay? That's great. Thanks a lot. Good luck,
All
guys.
right, have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. Okay. So that was challenging. Thank you, John, for bringing that to us, okay, when you didn't need to bring it to us. I really appreciate that, I'm sorry, did I?
That's why it works out to talk it out and think about it.
Okay. Just goofing. Okay. So, moving right along, previous business. Do we have any previous business that we needed to discuss? I don't see any minutes of the, oh, yes, I do.
Yes.
You have the minutes.
Yeah, so October first.
Up to the minutes yet there, Mr. Chair.
Okay. You're absolutely right. Okay, previous business. Do we have anything, John?
No.
No. You don't want to talk about trucks or anything like that? Okay, good. All right. All right. Do we have any new business?
New business, I had put in front of each of your places, the draft zoning amendments and the work that we're doing for your edification, if it may be. So at some of the, where some of it's cleaning up, trying to make things a little make more sense. Some of these were ones that went and failed. So we're putting again with a little more explanation and, make a better presentation of why we want to make these changes. And then also, as we get into it, we're doing some administrative work. One of the things that came up, that if you look at the last 2 pages, that Jessica childcare and daycare and all of those assorted uses were spread out through the definition section. So you had to, wander around inside the definition section of the ordinance to find each of these particular uses. So what Jessica has done is to consolidate them, and it will be in a section in the definitions that says child/daycare uses, but then they will all be there. You can find them all in one spot. And so we're
A lot easier.
yeah, we're doing different work with that. One of the ones that Paul Manzioni brought up, and he had some concerns, was some of the wording for setback requirements, particularly with the shore. But we have cleaned that up some. That will be a proposed amendment because we're adding language specifically to the section on back from the shore, from water, to make that clearer. But we also added in the conversation we had tonight about right-of-way lines. We added in that not only will it be the 25 feet from the right-of-way line, any street or highway, whether public or private, is the present language. We're adding, or the property line adjacent to the street or highway, whichever is more restrictive. Sometimes the property line is the edge of the right-of-way, and sometimes the edge of the right-of-way extends over the property line. So trying to get to whichever that is.
Right.
So that's, and then switching some wording around that doesn't change the context of it. And we expanded the definition of reference line, because when you talk about shore frontage, the term reference line is the altitude that determines the mean high water mark of that water body. So Lake Winnipesaukee is 504.2, 504.2 feet above sea level. Different water bodies is different. And so originally in the definition section, the definition of reference line only said as defined in RSA 483B4 as amended. It didn't say what that means. So we now added in reference line, mean high water mark, and gave that what that is, so that you can look in the ordinance instead of go from there to the statute, try to figure out try to provide more information in the ordinance. So that's the point of that amendment. Overall, done very, very good. It's gone very smoothly and gone very well. So
we've submitted this language to the attorney so he can review it, and then we're going to bring it forward finally to the planning board when it is all taken care of. We are going to bring it up on this next week's meeting. What we talked about tonight in regards to that section 320, paragraph J that we covered tonight in regards to there is no increase in the number of bedrooms, we'll add verbiage to that to clean that up. So
something to the effect of standard is 2 bedroom, or assuming each, a minimum of 2 bedrooms. Say a minimum of 2 bedrooms. We'll think about that, but it's something to that effect that would say, for the purpose of this ordinance, this means 2 bedrooms, a minimum of 2 bedrooms, not a 1 bedrooms, whatever. I'll have to work on, we'll work
on the wording on that, but.
Yeah, but that's essentially what we say is we're going to assume 2 bedrooms at a minimum. And go from there, based on the fact that you can't get anything less than a 2-bedroom septic system.
Right. So it could just say cannot add, provided it does not add more bedrooms is what it says now. You could say provided it does not add more than 2 bedrooms. Does not increase the number of bedrooms beyond 2.
Yeah.
In other words, your new building cannot increase the number of, right now it says your new building cannot increase the number of bedrooms.
Right.
in essence, right? So if you ask the applicant, how many bedrooms, there's one, your new building's gonna have two, sorry, gotta say no.
Right.
So you say you cannot increase the number of bedrooms beyond 2 bedrooms. You can't go beyond,
Well, it may have.
no, you're right. Beyond a minimum, I don't know.
Assuming that for the purposes of the ordinance, we're assuming that each structure has a minimum of 2 bedrooms.
2 bedrooms.
Yeah, right.
From the start.
Yeah.
From the start.
Start.
Whether it's one big room.
If it's one or,
It has
Yeah.
we're gonna,
bedroom septic.
for the purposes,
But wouldn't it make more sense to say beyond the size of the septic? What if it happened to have a 3-bedroom
Well,
septic?
no, because, it's some, you might have a 10-bedroom septic because you happen to have that land, but it's not gonna allow you to build a 10-bedroom house there. Because really what you're trying to do is stop these monster buildings from going into neighborhoods where everything is quaint and little. Somebody comes in and says, well, I can do 10 bedrooms, I got a big septic, it's not. I think we gotta keep it, you don't get more bedrooms than what you have.
and a lot of,
Everybody's assumed to have had 2 to start with. Right.
and a lot of these ones that and a lot, virtually all of the ones we get that have these kinds of requests are on lots that are,
Right.
we have lots that are as small as 4,000 square feet. Not a lot, but this is a good example. It's a 1/4 acre.
Yeah.
If you go out in, Alton Shores was laid out 100 by 100 each lot, so that's 10,000 square feet, which is less than a 1/4 acre. So, yeah, a lot of it is in these smaller lots where they're not gonna get a lot, a large septic. They may be restricted to just
I think we gotta go back to, it's an assumption that it's a two bedroom home.
right,
Right.
a minimum of a 2-bedroom home.
A minimum of a 2-bedroom.
Right.
We can,
He had 5 rooms there, 5 or 6 rooms.
Right.
You're not gonna tell me that one of those.
It was
other
only
rooms-
1 bedroom.
Somebody was using it somewhere, okay? Even if it was a closet. I mean,
Exactly.
And we conditioned that on getting a new septic from the DES, so.
We did. Yeah. Right.
that would be self-limiting there. In this case, the DES, I don't see the DES would get more than a 2-bedroom septic for that lot.
That's a tough lot too.
And the way when we run into this situation, which we have run into where there are pre-existing, grandfathered 3 or 4-bedroom lots or homes on a lot that would not normally meet the standards, then they have to verify through different, affidavit or some nature that the house has existed since a certain time period, generally 1967, but they also had a proviso in there for 1988, that it had that many bedrooms from that time. So they could get, it's 3-bedroom house on a lot this size, which would not normally get a 3-bedroom septic system. But because they were there and they could verify that it were there, and I've been involved in this several times, then they were allowed to continue, they were allowed to put back what they had. JP China, when I first got here, they ended up, because was a boarding house at one point, and there were rooms upstairs where people stay in addition to the motel. And they ended up using, there was a woman who worked there as a chambermaid in the mid-60s who gave an affidavit. She said, I know how many rooms there were because I cleaned them all. and she did, and that was that. But we have done it on other properties too, where we've, gone back and got historical information.
Oh, did your brother own it then?
Owned it in the 80s.
The 80s? Okay. I'm just wondering if, this chambermaid,
So, but anyway, that's how that works. I don't mean to tie you all up on it, but.
I said it before, but that case was the quintessential case for a team effort between an engineer and the client to really work within the zoning board ordinances and not try to bastardize them and put a garage and make it more non-conforming and more, non-pervious. They really worked within the guidelines, the slope of the roof, the height, everything. It was excellent.
Yeah.
They thought about all of that.
They really did, and I think that's the whole point of this and the master plan is that people follow those guidelines.
That's similar to the house he has now that he had built 5 or 6 years ago. It's very similar in layout.
Is that Tom Vardy's input, you think, that
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I would-
yeah, that's,
he
Tom,
knows how to,
Tom knows the law and the rules, and we don't usually have it, and he really tries hard with the runoff.
Yes.
Make sure that,
Yeah.
you know.
He has improved in that a lot in the last few years.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, at least in my experience, he's really worked on pervious stuff and trying to get anything that's on the
Yes.
shoreline. Trying
It's
to
true, right? I mean, he's had, in the past, he had a little trouble with that and a lot of questions on that. So he did more research and is definitely paying attention to DES rules and regulations on runoff, water management, and pervious areas and impervious areas. And I noticed that more and more on his drawings.
That's great. Okay, anything more on new business? No. Okay. Can we go to the approval of minutes?
Absolutely.
If Tim Morgan's not here, we shouldn't be approving any minutes.
It just doesn't seem right, does it?
You know he's gonna have, on page 5,
Somewhere.
you know, on page 5.
where there should be a period.
Right,
There's gonna be spellings.
right, you know. Do you wanna wait for Tim for next?
No.
No? No.
My only question, it said Frank Rich Chairman. Should that be Lord Frank Rich?
Sir Frank.
Sir Frank.
Oh, boy.
Ooh,
Wow.
Kind of busy, right?
I looked them over and not tremendously carefully, but in substance, I thought they were fine, and I would make a motion that we approve the minutes of October 1st.
The minutes have been excellent, and Tim has found fewer and fewer errors as Jen has been doing these.
They've been coming out fantastic. I second.
You second it? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye, Tom Lee.
Aye, Frank Rich.
Aye, Paul LaRochelle.
I'm Paul Manzioni.
I'm Mike Hepworth.
And I just want to say that we are up to date with our minutes, okay? And this board has never been up to date with the minutes, okay? But because I put a firm,
That's right.
I got a firm hand on this, okay?
Lord Frank
Under your
Rich.
leadership.
Lord Frank,
That's right.
I think that coincides with your leadership based upon Paul's previous leadership. Is it just a
Well,
coincidence?
I think the previous chairman was a little lackadaisical when it came to the board minutes.
Putting it polite.
I have a question. In the interest of time, why do you need to ask for public input in favor of a project? Unless there's somebody who's objecting, the applicant is the advocate for the project anyway, so why do you need anyone to say, yes, I approve of it?
Well, now, that's a good point, but let's say that there was a lot of controversy in objecting, and there were people that were in favor of it and objecting. I could sense that with definitely on some commercial properties, so the board would have to weigh.
If there's an objection, I would say, yes, of course, you need it, but why don't you start with any objections, and if there are none, then you don't need any advocates, just to shave 30 seconds off the,
Everybody still has to have the opportunity.
To speak.
Got to put it out there.
To speak.
It kind of breaks it down if you do applicants in favor or, people in favor.
Well, I get it, but ask for anyone against first, and if there's no one against it, then you don't need anybody in favor of it, do you?
Well, if they're standing out there and they want to speak,
If you're against it until they've heard all of what you have to say about what it is, you know what I mean? But people don't know that they're against it, and someone stands up and makes it, from the public, and makes a point about it. So I think it's great that it's gonna bring in a lot of tourism in that part of the town.
Right.
And then somebody in the audience goes, wait a minute, I live in that part of the town, I don't want that traffic. So then he stands up and comes up and says, I'm against it. It's gonna increase too many cars on my road, so.
Paul, couldn't we actually be liable to that if in fact we shot down a proposal and we give somebody give them the time to be in favor of it? They
Yeah,
could very
I
well
think-
bring that to a,
I think, not so much liable, but it would be subject to challenge in the court because the public has the right to come in and participate and to express their opinions for or against. Somebody may want to see an ice cream stand in the center of town and somebody say, no, I think an ice cream stand's ridiculous. Everybody gets their chance to come in and say what they'd like, you know, whether they want it or not. Now, the statement we read at the beginning is, we're not gonna, your opinions don't make a decision, you know, happen for us. We're not here to gauge the sentiment of the public, you know. But when they express that they don't like it and they say why, there may be something in there that we need to consider,
use,
you know.
actual use.
So, or if they say they like it, that may help us determine, oh yeah, you're right, this is in spirit of the master plan, you know. And so you want to hear what everybody has to say.
I'm just curious, when you guys voted for the 3 meg, solar system, did Hussey say how he was gonna utilize the, power?
Oh, no, it's utility.
Yeah, it's going back to the
So
utility.
he's just, his involvement is he's renting the land.
Right.
You know, and it wasn't, Dave wasn't the one that did the presentation, it was the engineers, you know,
Right,
Blue
right.
Planet and Novus and whatever that come forward and do the proposal. Dave's just renting the land.
Right.
That's his part.
He's done this
of it.
before in another state.
Dave has.
Dave has. He's done the same thing in another state, and it went to the.
So we had a big farm of, we had a big one we own 100 acres in Hamilton, Mass. And it's the last large piece in Hamilton. It's high-end stuff.
Very high
And
end.
we were approached for a large solar,
Mm-hmm.
but the economics of it, you know, for what the land is worth, it just wasn't, it wasn't there, you know. I mean, I think we were gonna make maybe $50,000 a year,
Yeah.
you know,
Wow.
you know. I mean, that
What is
sounds
it,
like
10 acres or?
100 acres. Okay, but they're gonna end up using 10 acres of it.
Right.
Okay, but it would have demonstratively changed the 100 acres. Okay, so we, you know,
The people of Hamilton would not agree with that. No way.
geez, you know, I mean,
They'd kick you around the myopia hunt club.
they were kicking us, they kick us anyways.
Yeah.
You know, no matter what we've been trying to do with that land, you know? But we actually just signed an agreement with a 55 and over, and we're donating, you know, a lot of it to the conservation or the new owners that are submitting this, 55 and over, are donating a good portion of the acreage to the conservation.
That's a win-win.
It's the way you gotta do it.
That's the way you're gonna do it. You're not gonna get.
Or you're not gonna get what you're.
You're gonna get it.
So anyways.
Do we need a motion for adjournment?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. So may I get a motion to adjourn? Unless there was something else. Nothing
I
else?
move we adjourn.
I second that motion.
You second it?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we did not hear